When Major Adam Jowett walked out into no man's land to stand face-to-face with the Taliban fighters who had killed 3 of his men, hoping to agree a truce, he knew any small misjudgment could result in him being killed or taken hostage. "In my whole time in Afghanistan," he says, "it felt like the stupidest thing I'd ever done." Fortunately, he was able to bring to an end the Siege of Musa Qala, where Jowett's platoon of 88 men had been tasked with defending the town center amid the carnage of the war in Helmand province. For 56 days in the summer of 2006, he and his Easy Company unit of parachute troops and Royal Irish Rangers had held off the insurgents in an operation likened to the British Army's against all odds defense of Rorke's Drift in 1879, portrayed in the film Zulu. When an uneasy truce was agreed, it resulted in the bizarre situation of the UK soldiers mixing with their enemy for a month before they could finally leave. British snipers Hugh Keir and Gerard Cleary during the fight for Musa Qala, described in Adam Jowett's book More British Troops to Afghanistan. Major Adam Jowett describes the Musa Qala standoff in his book, No Way Out, which has been released just as the government considers sending another 400 British troops to Afghanistan to help train that country's security forces. They would be joining the 600 already in the capital, Kabul. Although UK combat troops left in 2014, the Afghan army's fight with the Taliban continues, and Jowett agrees with assisting them. "Whilst we've still got training and mentoring and advice to offer, and we're welcome, I think it's absolutely the right thing to do," he tells I. Major Adam Jowett. On the right photo, Adam Jowett, the deadly fight for Musa Qala. Jowett, who joined the army in 1991, transferred to the Parachute Regiment in 1998, and has served in Bosnia, Kosovo, Sierra Leone and Liberia as well as his 2 tours in Afghanistan, knows how brutal the war against the Taliban can be. He and his men were dropped into Musa Qala on the 23rd of August 2006 by Chinook helicopter, and it already had a reputation as a place where our troops were getting stuck and the fighting had been increasing exponentially. Their base was in the middle of the town and the compound was overlooked on all sides, making it very exposed. We held the southern side of this big parade of shops and the enemy held literally the other side. It was close enough to throw grenades and shout abuse at each other. Outwards from that, we just had circles of fighters, of enemy, that were looking to overrun us and take the district center. The soldiers were completely isolated, and Jowett describes the fighting as brutal and pitiless, and he recalls several times when the enemy was very close to overrunning them, including an occasion where for a few moments only a single man could keep up the fight. "I remember looking across on the western wall and everyone was being hammered into shelter by the weight of fire. One of our guys was on a machine gun, and he was the one that kept the fight going until we could reposition ourselves, literally scramble to somewhere that wasn't being chewed up by fire, and get returning fire." One of the 2 mortars used by Major Adam Jowett and his Easy Company unit. Photo, Adam Jowett, sealing the ceasefire after being besieged for nearly 2 months, with ammunition running low and the enemy boasting 5 times more men. They feared the worst. But then local elders, shocked at the destruction of their town, somehow persuaded the Taliban to call a ceasefire, leading to Jowett's risky walk out of the protection of the compound, joined only by a translator, to agree a truce on the 12th of September. Of all the situations I had foreseen happening on this tour in Afghanistan, being alongside the Taliban as we bartered for goats was not among them. Major Adam Jowett. Looking back, Jowett, who is now Assistant Regimental Secretary to the Parachute Regiment, can see that it was the right thing to do, but at the time it troubled him deeply. With snipers in position, he met with Taliban leaders and several village elders. When opposite the tough-looking fighters, he deferred to the elders as much as possible, out of respect. They're the people who are going to be there long after we'd gone, long after the Taliban had gone, and the elders reasoned perfectly about why we have got to stop fighting. Before the fighting began, Musa Qala had a population of 20,000, a daily market and dual carriageways, but most residents had long since fled. I could also see that no matter how bravely we were fighting, how well we thought we were doing, this town was being rubble-ised around us, from both our fire and the enemy fire. It was absolutely destroying it. Major Adam Jowett and Easy Company's final act of remembrance for fallen comrades before they left Helmand. Photo: Adam Jowett, drinking sweet tea with the Taliban after a ceasefire was agreed. There followed a bizarre situation where the British and the Taliban lived side by side for just over a month. They did not trust one another but would say "Salam," Arabic for hello, to one another and go on their way. Of all the situations I had foreseen happening on this tour in Afghanistan, being alongside the Taliban as we bartered for goats was not among them, Jowett says. We spent hours, almost daily, sitting drinking sweet tea, discussing with the Taliban and the elders about what to do next, how we could improve things. The men tried to keep busy by hiring people to clear rebel training, fixing destroyed power outlets and drainage junctions. After a month were they able to leave in a convoy of cattle trucks. Within a few months of Jowett and his men leaving, the Taliban broke the ceasefire and overran Musa Qala. It was retaken in 2007 in a British-led operation, but fighting continues in the district but is now effectively the Taliban capital. One of the cattle trucks used by Major Adam Jowett and Easy Company when they finally left Musa Qala. Photo: Adam Jowett. Read more. Not a single Afghan interpreter has been relocated to UK under useless scheme. What does the future hold for Afghanistan? UK combat troops left Afghanistan in 2014, 13 years after invading to combat al-Qaeda and oust the Taliban from rule. I didn't think it was clever to announce it beforehand with such a lead-up to it, says Jowett at the withdrawal. Militarily, I don't think that made sense. As for what comes next, Jowett says, my sincere wish is that the Taliban don't have a place in Afghanistan's future. They have seen that they are not welcome because really all people want is security, and with that security comes livelihoods and education and all those really good things that are essential human rights. If it's left to the people, like the elders, like the people I met, I think that will happen, because people don't want destruction, they don't want to live in fear. But they do want those basic human rights. No Way Out: The Searing True Story of Men Under Siege by Major Adam Jowett, £18.99, Sidgwick.